Hey, it's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be talking about Valorant. Yeah, you might have expected this considering it's a Valorant channel, but specifically what we're going to be discussing is what to do when you get behind. What do you do when you start dying? When you're 0-10, or like 2-10, 2-20, and you're like, this game is trash. I don't want to play anymore. What should you do in these scenarios? Well, the first thing you should do is take a break or quit the game, but assuming you don't want to do that because you're unbelievably addicted to Valorant, just like I am, yeah, there's some other options which we should definitely discuss. And so the purpose of this video, even though some of the tips will be obvious, some won't, is to help motivate you guys and put yourselves in the right mindset. Because I know, and let's be real, when I play Valorant and when you play Valorant and we're having a bad game, all of a sudden we make really bad decisions. On top of that, I just want to briefly discuss the fact that skill-based matchmaking exists in Valorant. Guys, personally, I wasn't a huge CSGO player. I love Valorant, I love the abilities, I love, the mix of these two things together, so I've been heavily enjoying the game. But I'll win like 3 games in a row, right? Just 3 or 5 matches, and then all of a sudden, Valorant thinks I'm some CSGO god with 10,000 hours into the game. Like, man, I was playing Minecraft and heard this beta came out, and the only thing I can genuinely snipe is a chicken running in a straight line. That's it. That's the only thing I can hit, but I get put against literally people with 18,000 hours in CSGO, and it doesn't work out too well. So I'm going to be talking about every single tip I've used to keep my mentality straight. I just had a game where I was 3-10. I wanted to just quit, go back to desktop, but I managed to clutch up and end the game 12-12, as well as quick scope a Viper who was in her ultimate. So yeah, let's start with some general tips. How I'm going to be breaking down this video is I'm going to do a couple general tips, around 3. Then I'm going to talk about what you should do on offense, then defense. On top of that, if you already enjoyed the video, or at least like, I don't know, the minute that's in, if you like the video, it's the thumbs button below. If you're not familiar, I hope you are familiar, but you just have to make an account if you don't have one, and just click the thumbs up button. It's pretty simple. All right, but getting into the general tips, the number 1 is you want to take each round as a learning experience. Now I know this is basic, but we all forget to do this. So in your next Valorant match, just with this in mind, you're gonna be able to think more, right? A lot of the time when we're doing bad, our judgment gets very clouded. And I'll be talking about this throughout the video, but your judgment gets very, very clouded. You can't think straight, you make bad decisions, and really what you want to do, no matter what you're doing, is take every round as a learning experience. Whether or not you're pushing, staying back, practicing your abilities, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure you understand that we're very early on to Valorant. If you're not a god, it's okay. The ranked system isn't even out at the time of this video's creation. So you have some time, right? Even when the ranked system does come out, it's gonna get reset when the full version comes out. I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing, okay? All I'm saying is relax. Just learn the game right now. Try different characters, right? After you've tried a couple different characters, you understand all their abilities, move on, spam one. Figure out things even when you were behind, when the game is going bad. The second thing you should do when you're tilting is, if you die right off spawn, like you generally will when you're super tilted, is to go get some water. I know I'm gonna move on quick because there's no secret to this. Just get off the chair, stop typing to your team that they are a bunch of ugly human beings that should not be on Valorant, because frankly, they have all the rights to be on Valorant. And finally, and most importantly, this one is not so obvious, but this is gonna resonate with a lot of you guys, and I know it will because I do it too. It's bad. I do it too. Unless you get motivated from looking at a bad scoreboard, all I'm gonna say is don't look at your score if you're getting trashed over and over again. You can still look at the scoreboard and be like, okay, they have ultimates, or they don't have a lot of gold this round. That stuff is great. That's learning. However, do not say, I'm 2-10. Die and then be like, I wonder what score I am. Could it be 2-11? It might be. All I'm trying to say is that you really should stop looking at your score when you're doing bad. It's just gonna tilt you. That's what happens to me. It really does. If you have a good round, okay, you can peek back at it and be like, wow, my score is getting higher, right? Yeah. I'm all of a sudden 6-11 now. That's fine, but stop tilting yourself by looking at your score. It happens to me, so I know it happens to you. We're just human. Now let's move into offense. So the first thing I want to say about offense is I think it's very valuable to use yourself as a meat shield when you're playing poorly. It's going to teach you about angles, where people come from, how to cast your spells aggressively, and get vision for your team. Essentially, what I'm trying to tell you to do is tell your team where you want to push, mark it on the map. All you have to do is click caps lock, left click on somewhere on the map, or you can type in the chat, hey, let's go B, let's go A, let's go C, doesn't matter, and then tell your team you want to push and go in for the boys. Just tank it. You want to be Information Ivan, as I've heard it been called by Tim the Tat Man. That's what I've heard. And when you're doing this, a couple things I would recommend, because you're going mode psycho and you're not really full focus, right? You're not necessarily trying to just play it perfect. What you're trying to do is just learn where people camp, kind of get a feel for the map. Pre-fire a ton of doorways, buy some silenced weapon, right? So buy, the Spectre or buy the Phantom and just run in and pre-fire corners. You're gonna hit a headshot at some point if you just simply keep your crosshair level at people's heads and pre-fire corners. It's a great way to tank the bullets for your team, get in and get information, as well as that key frag. Think about at it. If you pre-fire every corner and you happen to get a pretty lucky kill, well, I guess it's not that lucky for pre-firing, but you happen to get that kill and you get in for your team, you're basically winning the round even when you're in a bad mood. It's quite effective. I did this, as I said in my last game. I went from 2-10 or 2-11. I can't remember the exact score. And then it came back 12-12. And really, I think a lot of it came down to the fact that I stopped worrying so much about my score and I just went in for the boys. And they really were happy. They finally said, you know, you did something useful. After flaming me for 8 rounds straight, they were like, Speed, you know what? Maybe you aren't that bad. And the last thing I want to say about being on offense is if you're on offense and you just die after your team has gone in already, then you're truly useless. That's the only reason why I'm saying to go in first, because then at least you tell your team where someone is. Now let's get into defense. So for defense, I recommend you sit next to a wall with a shorty and don't move. Nah, but in all seriousness, it's not that bad. Like, that strat's actually pretty good, not gonna lie. Like, if you're playing Cypher or something like that, you know, one of the vision characters, like Cypher or, you know, Phoenix, and you can just, like, peek corners and hold walls, you know? It's pretty good, like, especially if you're not doing well, like, you've been trying to swing and you just keep missing all your shots. I mean, you can't really miss with the shorty. If you do, I don't know, just, then you should just get off at that point. I don't know what to tell you. But really, like, it's actually kind of legitimate. It's something I've been doing occasionally. Like, I'm really, really tilted. Like, I'll either go mode Stinger, you know, just sit behind a corner, or mode, you know, shorty, just put down some traps, put up, you know, the cage, voila. And now, obviously, it depends on your character. If you're Sage, maybe you need to be a little bit more careful and stay in the back, right? I'm not saying to kill yourself with a shorty every single round, but this is definitely an option. Number 2 is to slow it down. And the reason why I'm saying slow it down in comparison to offense, I think when people are on offense and they're doing bad, they play really defensive. Now, this is just my feeling. This is my experience. So I could be wrong and I'd be happy to make a discussion in the comments. But I feel like when people are on offense, they get very defensive when they're having a bad game because they're afraid of making the original peak. But when they're on defense, they stop playing defensive, right? They stop holding angles. Like, you know, that's the advantage you get on defense. And what they do is they just start running at people. Like, no joke, what I see people do on defense when they're tilted is they, you know, let's say you're on Haven. They go to the B-bomb, they run it down to the window or to the, whatever it's called, like the garden by garage. And all of a sudden, simple, you know, it just peeks the window and one taps you with the sheriff. And then you're like, oh my God, I hate this game. Like, nah, just relax. If you're on defense, take a step back. Hold some angle that you can disengage from. And this is very important to note. Stop committing. The only time you should commit this if you are really, really doing bad. Like if you can't a single shot and you know you're just inside your own head, you can't do anything, then you should go for the shorty strat that I just talked about. But like if you're doing okay, you know, you're doing fine, you know the opponents aren't better than you just had a couple bad rounds, chill a bit. Hold angles where you can, you know, dodge from. Don't hold angles where you're gonna have to trade when people push in. Then you will definitely get tilted, especially if you miss your shots because you panic when like 5 people run in a room, which is pretty common for a lot of players, especially if you're not terribly experienced. Well then, you know, what you need to do to fix this is simply hold angles where you can disengage from. Let's think about Haven at B. Just hold one of the left or right side doors. If people push in, it's very easy to get out. Very, very easy. You can go for a 1-tap, and that's exactly what you should do. Go for a 1-tap and back off. If you don't hit your original 3-bullet spray, which is basically what you always want to try to do in Valorant, right? Spray 3 bullets with guns like the Phantom or the Vandal. If you don't hit it, back up. Don't commit. Don't commit. When you're in a bad mood, you feel so pressured to get kills to fix your score, right? That's what it is. It's like, I'm 2-6. I hope I can get 4 kills this round, right? And then you go ham trying to kill 4 people to fix your score so that it looks better in your head. And all of a sudden now you're 2-7. Chill a bit. Listen to what I have to say about holding angles where you can disengage from and go for 1-taps. This is the best way to play defensive and slow. It gives your team time to catch up and get to the bomb site. And lastly, what I want to say before we end off the video, guys, in the comment section down below, give your tips for what you do when you're tilted or behind. For offense, defense, in general, doesn't really matter. I kind of wanted this video just to be a discussion more than like something super serious. I want it to be a discussion to help people untilt and get some ideas, because when you're in a bad mood, the best thing you can do is have an idea of how you can fix it, right? Come up with something. Even if it's by yourself and you have some weird idea, like you're just gonna go Marshall in the back of, what's that map called? Split? You just chill on the B-bomb the whole time. That can work, you know what I mean? Just have some ideas and switch up your thinking, you know what I mean? Don't keep looking at your score and getting angry. That's the worst thing you can do. But yeah, leave some comments down below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.